February 21st marks the death anniversary of Malcolm X, a prominent civil rights activist. He forever changed the discourse on racism in the United States and left behind an inspiring legacy till this day. Born in 1925, Malcolm witnessed firsthand the brutal oppression of African Americans. His father, an outspoken Baptist preacher, was threatened several times by the Ku Klux Klan, and his family were forced to relocate after their home was burned down by white supremacists. In his late teens, as a troubled young man who had lost his father at a young age, Malcolm engaged in criminal behavior, including drug dealing, gambling, and robbery. Eventually, Malcolm was arrested and sent to prison, where he was introduced to the teachings of the Nation of Islam, led by Elijah Muhammad. The Nation of Islam was a growing religious movement preaching black self-reliance and at the time believed the white man to be the devil. Malcolm renounced his past and converted to the Nation of Islam, changing his surname from Little to X. He cited that he wanted to replace the white slave master name of Little. Malcolm X went on to become a minister for the nation, delivering a series of fiery speeches which increased his fame and popularity amongst African Americans.
Who taught you to hate your own kind? Who taught you to hate the race that you belong to? So much so that you don't want to be around each other.
He rejected the civil rights movement's strategy of non-violence, famously expressing that black people should defend themselves
by any means necessary.
Eventually though, Malcolm X started growing uncomfortable with the teachings of Elijah Muhammad and left the Nation of Islam in 1964. Despite leaving the influential Nation of Islam, X continued to speak out during the era of the civil rights movement, alongside the likes of Martin Luther King Jr. In April 1964, he converted to Orthodox Islam and performed the Hajj pilgrimage. It is said that this single experience inspired Malcolm to develop a nuanced understanding about race and how Islam could be a solution for America's problems.
While I was at Mecca making the pilgrimage, I spoke about the brotherhood that existed at all levels and among all people who were there on that Hajj, who had accepted the religion of Islam. It would probably do America well to study the religion of Islam, and perhaps it could drive some of the racism from this society as it has driven racism from the Muslim society.
After his pilgrimage, he visited several African countries and returned to the United States, where he continued to deliver speeches and interviews with media outlets. However, he had made many enemies after his split with the Nation of Islam. Now, Malcolm was not only facing death threats by white supremacists, but also his former supporters and allies who labelled him a hypocrite. At the same time, he was under intense surveillance and harassment by the FBI. On February 19, 1965, Malcolm X told an interviewer that the Nation of Islam was actively trying to kill him. On February 21st, just 3 days later, Malcolm took to the podium one last time. During a disturbance in the crowd, a man rushed forward and shot him in the chest with a shotgun, whilst two other men charged the stage firing semi-automatic handguns. He was pronounced dead shortly after. An autopsy later identified 21 gunshot wounds. Malcolm X, otherwise known as Hajj Malik El Shabbaz, has been described as one of the greatest and most influential African Americans in history. He is credited with raising the self-esteem of black Americans and for the spread of Islam in the black community across the United States. Malcolm X continues to be an icon for activists around the world. His powerful speeches resonate with people fighting for their rights till this day.